It was a cold, dark night in June 2015 when two prisoners vanished from one of New York's most secure prisons. The guards at Clinton Correctional Facility couldn't believe what they were seeing. Two empty beds where killers once slept. Their names were Richard Matt and David Sweat, both serving long sentences for murder. Somehow, they had done the impossible. They had escaped. The alarm blared through the prison halls as guards rushed from cell to cell, shouting orders and searching frantically. Inmates were locked down, dogs were brought in, and helicopters filled the night sky. But Matt and Sweat were already gone. All that was left behind was a hole in the back of their cell, cut clean through solid steel. For a moment, everyone thought it was a joke. Clinton Correctional was known as one of the toughest prisons in the state. No one had escaped from it in over a century. But the truth was clear. These two men had planned something big, something daring, and they had pulled it off. Behind their cells, the guards found a maze of narrow tunnels. Pipes, wires, and dusty air filled the space. The men had crawled through it for weeks, maybe months, slowly cutting their way out. They had made their final move in the dead of night, climbing through a pipe and popping out from a manhole just outside the prison walls. Freedom was just a few steps away.
By morning, police and state troopers had filled the area. News cameras showed up, flashing lights covered the prison gates, and the story spread across America. Two convicted killers were on the run, and no one knew where they were. But the biggest shock came when investigators discovered something unbelievable. The two escapees hadn't done it alone. Someone inside the prison had helped them escape. That person was a middle-aged woman named Joyce Mitchell, a prison tailor shop worker who had regular contact with both men. She was known to be kind and chatty, never someone you'd suspect of helping killers escape. But when police searched her house and questioned her, the truth started to come out. She had given them tools, hidden inside frozen hamburger meat, and even promised to pick them up after they got out. But at the last minute, she backed out, too scared to follow through. Now the whole country was asking the same question. How did two murderers trick an entire prison and a prison worker into helping them vanish? The manhunt was on. Over 1,500 officers were deployed. Roads were blocked, drones searched from the sky, and nearby towns were warned to lock their doors. But still, no sign of Matt or Sweat. Days passed, then weeks. Rumors spread that the escapees were heading for Canada. Others believed they were hiding deep in the woods. But the truth, the full, shocking truth, was still to come. The search for Richard Matt and David Sweat had now entered its second week, and the pressure was on. The police, state troopers, and even federal agents were all involved. News helicopters circled above the thick forests near Dannemora, New York, showing endless green trees that could hide anyone. Every night, the sound of dogs barking and flashlights cutting through the darkness echoed through the woods. People in nearby towns were terrified. Farmers locked their barns, parents kept their children inside, and every shadow looked suspicious. Police set up checkpoints, searching cars and asking questions, but the two prisoners seemed to have vanished into thin air. Behind the scenes, detectives focused on one person, Joyce Mitchell. She had worked with both men for years in the prison tailor shop, where inmates repaired uniforms and clothes. To the guards, she looked harmless, just a friendly woman who enjoyed her job. But to Matt and Sweat, she was their key to freedom. Investigators soon learned that Joyce had grown close to both men, especially Matt. He was older, charming, and smooth with his words. He drew her pictures, made her laugh, and slowly convinced her that he cared for her. He promised her excitement, love, and a new life outside the prison walls. It was a dangerous game, one that would soon destroy her life. Joyce confessed that she smuggled hacksaw blades, chisels, and drill bits inside frozen hamburger meat.
She gave the packages to the inmates, who then used them to cut through steel walls and pipes at night. Each night they worked quietly, covering the noise with music or fans. For months, no one noticed a thing. The guards didn't check closely, and the prisoners had memorized the guards' routines. Everything had gone perfectly until the night of the escape.
Joyce was supposed to meet them outside the prison walls after they climbed out of the manhole. They planned to drive far away, maybe to Mexico. But when the time came, Joyce froze. She said her heart was racing so fast she thought she would die. She stayed home, panicking, while Matt and Sweat crawled out into the cold night, realizing they'd been left behind. Now they were on their own, two dangerous men hiding in the woods with only a few supplies. But Richard Matt was no ordinary prisoner. He was clever, manipulative, and willing to do anything to stay free. David Sweat was younger, quieter, and more cautious, but loyal to his partner. The manhunt stretched across miles of forest. Officers searched abandoned cabins, hunted through swamps, and followed every rumor. At one point, someone reported seeing footprints near a cabin. Another claimed to hear voices in the woods. But then, a break came. A hunter found a small camp hidden deep in the forest. Inside were signs of life, food cans, clothes, and even prison-style tools. It was clear the escapees had been there. Police tightened their search around the area. They were getting closer. And then one evening, a gunshot echoed through the trees.
The sound of the gunshot ripped through the quiet woods, sending police officers into full alert. Radios crackled as voices shouted directions. Shots fired near Malone. Within minutes, dozens of troopers rushed toward the sound, their flashlights cutting through the thick forest. The chase that had gripped the entire nation was about to reach its end. For 3 long weeks, Richard Matt and David Sweat had managed to stay ahead of hundreds of search teams. They had stolen food from hunting cabins, hidden in old barns, and slept under trees. But now, exhaustion was setting in. The nights were freezing, and the mosquitoes were everywhere. They were hungry, tired, and desperate. Matt, always the talker, had started to argue more with Sweat. He wanted to keep pushing north toward the Canadian border. Sweat, however, wanted to move slower and stay hidden until things cooled down. Tension was growing between them. Then came June 26, 2015. A man driving an RV near Lalone, New York, noticed something strange. A man with a shotgun walking out of the woods. He called the police immediately. Minutes later, officers moved into the area. That's when they saw him, Richard Matt, holding a shotgun, staggering through the trees. Officers shouted for him to drop the weapon, but Matt refused. He raised the gun instead. In an instant, the police opened fire. The shots echoed across the forest, and when the smoke cleared, Richard Matt lay dead on the ground. After 22 days on the run, one half of the Dannemora escape team was gone. But the chase wasn't over yet. David Sweat was still out there.
2 days later, on June 28th, police received another tip. A trooper on patrol near the Canadian border spotted a man walking along a rural road. The man looked tired, pale, and was wearing dirty clothes. The trooper called out, "Hey, stop right there!" The man started to run. The officer, a sharpshooter named Sergeant J. Cook, chased him through an open field. "Stop or I'll shoot!" he yelled. Sweat didn't stop. He sprinted faster, just 1.5 miles from Canada, so close to freedom. Then Cook fired 2 shots. Sweat fell to the ground, hit but alive. The trooper quickly handcuffed him and called for backup. After 23 days of fear, tension, and endless searching, the manhunt for the Dannemora escapees was finally over. As news broke, the whole country breathed a sigh of relief. Reporters flooded the area. Helicopters filmed the scene as officers carried Sweat away on a stretcher. Joyce Mitchell was later arrested and sentenced for her role in helping them escape. Inside the Clinton Correctional Facility, new security systems were installed. Guards were retrained. The prison that once seemed unbreakable had been exposed. And as for re-escape itself, It became one of the most shocking and daring prison breaks in American history. Two killers, a smuggled hamburger, a woman's mistake, and a 23-day manhunt that had the entire nation watching every second. Even now, people still ask, how could it happen in such a secure place? And what would have happened if Joyce had actually shown up that night with the car? Maybe they would have made it. Maybe they'd still be free. But fate had other plans, and the Dannemora Prison Escape would forever be remembered as the story of freedom, betrayal, and a chase that no one would ever forget.